We want to welcome everybody to the first annual Spirits of the Pioneer Cemetery. You know there's spirits in this cemetery. People have been buried here since the 1780s. Maybe reluctantly buried here, but they were buried here and continued to about 1856. Today we're going to travel through time back to when some of the residents in this cemetery have come back to tell us about their lives before they died and then after they died. This is our guide, who doesn't speak. They just glare and use their hands to tell us what. And we're prepared for dark. As you can see, we're using the old-fashioned lantern. The breeze is blowing. It's a little cool. It's a nice time of the year to think about haunts and spooks, but it's not a scary tour. It's a tour that you're going to learn and enjoy and maybe even laugh a little as they go along.
Well, bless me, I have this. I must say, it's an interesting night to visit. Not even being dead will keep you from feeling ill. Anyway, allow me to introduce myself. My name is James Smiley. People just call me Major. We moved to America at 6, but we came from Ireland. I didn't develop thick fathers, though. I lived here in Bardstown for all my life, and I must say, it's much different than it used to be. Buildings today are so crowded and together. It's easy from all the machines. Anyway, back in the day, I just spent time on the farm. I didn't know any Irish families in town, but the when I wasn't on the farm, I spent time in the militia. I didn't see much action in the War of 1812. It was the biggest thing I ever saw. I led the Kentucky militia in the Battle of. I was 56. I wasn't even the oldest man there. I suppose it's just every able. Yeah. I remember the intensity, the men screaming and jumping, hiding in, jumping over the walls and the parapets. I'll never forget that. I remember Wilkinson. He stood up and he said, "Hello, boys. They're coming in on fours." Then he was shot in the back. As he laid in his arms, I said, "Don't give up. You're too brave to die." All he asked was that I told the commander I died like a true English brave soldier. I was done in that war battle. It changes when you see a man die in your arms. A good man. The worst part was, the battle didn't even need to be. The war had already been over. The peace treaty had been signed over, but news hadn't spread to us yet. And those men died from it. I retired and stayed on the farm with my grandchildren. I lived there for a pretty good long time, and the last date I can remember was 1829. One night, I went to bed, and I woke up here. I can't really figure how I died, but it's not too bad. It wasn't me. Being dead and all, it gets a little sometimes here, but the people here are pretty nice. I've made friends with most of them. The old farmer and me wake up early and go to bed early. I guess for me.
We don't have their friends to talk to anymore. They're all watching their descendants. Great game. But I never really cared for Ross that much. And that's alright. How do you speak publicly? James, Missouri, for the river out west. When my family moved here from Maryland in 1800, we traveled by river on a flatboat. This is the way most people travel the river to Kentucky. We brought goods that were hard to find out west. The flatboat seemed large to me, as I was only old, but it was filled with animals, people, all kinds of goods. I had to watch that my little sister Sarah didn't as she was only 2 and was hard to keep inside the shelter. Once, Papa let me aside, and I caught a big fish whisper. Mama cooked it, and it was enough for my whole family. Fall is my favorite season, although I can't weather it. But I guess that's a good thing, right? I don't like the summer. It's too hot. And I don't like the winter. It's cold. They seem like a nice day. Who am I? I can't feel it. I bet you how I died. Well, as part of my weekly, I was gathering my family's dirty clothes. I had already put a pot of water on the fireplace, and I was coming downstairs with the clothes. I had so many clothes, so much it almost completely covered my eyes. As I was coming downstairs, my foot came down on my cat's tail. I heard his squeak and drew back to catch my balance, but the heavy load of my arms pulled me forward. I tumbled upstairs and into the passage. My screams brought my Anne and Sister Sarah to my side. Mama felt of me to see what was causing my pain, and when she reached my ribcage, I let out a pain-filled moan. She sent Sarah to get Dr. Harrison, who was only a few blocks away. When he examined me, his serious face let Mama know that I had been. He gave Mama a special mixed with water. This drink used to make bubbles, but within 2 days, I couldn't breathe and had to. My mother and sister took turns washing my face with cold water. At the end, I knew that I was leaving. I tried to say goodbye, but couldn't form words. Missouri Lincoln, born in 1792, died in 1810. That is what my tombstone read. Angry because I hadn't known what I had accomplished. But now I know that it's okay. I got to see my family continue growing. Sister Sarah married 10 years later to Robert Abel. He was a maker and was sought after by people in Bardstown. Sarah, once she was holding on to and she was crying. No one was sick or dying. Why was she crying? When she spread out the quilt, I could see what was just Sarah. Her lovely wig rose quilt. A mouse had chewed that she had sewn for her living. Robert had made the chest to hold her all her quilts. If my cat were alive, I wouldn't have let that mouse chew both. When Robert died in 1843, Sarah moved in with her daughter. When Sarah died, I watched her move from the living world to the world. Finally, after 40 years, we could talk to each other again. Once, me and Sarah were visiting the plantation house our Judge Thomas Lincoln had bought, and we were admiring the furnishings. Sarah had she was alive, so she knew it all. Sometimes we go shopping with Sarah's descendants. We wonder at all the things you can buy now. Most of those things we had to make when we were young. I love to listen to the chatter of I guess I should say, my relatives. I don't absolutely hate being dead. At least I have my cat.
and I were buried when I was just 25 years old. Hello, my name is Morgan Riser, and I was raised up here in Bardstown. I always liked making things, building things, and I always pestered my mom and Paul to work at my Uncle Jacob's gunsmith workshop. Now, and finally they gave in, and I was called an apprentice. I watched what Uncle Jacob did, how he beat and bent things, and how he burned, how he softened metals in a hot fire and beat and bent them to the shape he wanted, and how he whittled away beautiful pieces of wood until they got them just the right size. And I kept trying and trying to get what he did. I kept on getting distracted by the goings-on at the new St. Joseph College down the street from my Uncle Jacob's shop. First, it was the sounds of the men who were working on a new building for the boys going to school there. You know, some of them boys came all the way down from Louisiana to school there. So, the men were building places for them boys to sleep along with the classrooms for their studies. Now there were a lot of boys who lived here in Bardstown who went to the school. Now my parents didn't have enough money for me, so I was learning how to gun making from my Uncle Jacob to get some money. Never mind them, I had plenty of Uncle Jacob's workshop. About the time I was a man, a lot of people in the town got died. The older folks called it the college. Lucky for me, I never got sick, but a lot of them fellows in the college did. And lots of families and lots of grieving and burying the dead during the days. A few years later, news from the college got everyone all excited. You see, down in that area they call Texas, or Mexico, there was fighting going on between us and them. A group of boys called the Kentucky Mustangs who went there to fight. Yeah, I remember they lived here in Bardstown and had gone to college. It's a guy named Bird. Now, he was in charge. He was a captain. Now, there's some boys from around here too. Most of them got killed down there. Folks call it a massacre. Now, John Duvall, he survived to tell about his experiences through all the battles and how he escaped and how he died. When he died, most folks believed John was the last survivor of the massacre. Just about the time the excitement died down about the massacre, there was a big fire at the college now. All of them inside the building were burnt down, and where they slept, and most of the classrooms and the teachers' rooms were all burned up. Seems like there's always something going on. But let you folks mosey on. Don't get very many visitors around here very much.
Get visitors over here. My name is Jane Pike. Stone's right over here. I see that you've met young Mortimer over there. He was pretty young when he passed away. And young Miss over there, she was pretty young as well. And then you meet me. 93 years old. Oldest person buried in this cemetery. I've seen a lot of things go on in this town. I was born just before this town really started to take off. Saw a few wars in between there, too. Don't remember much about the revolution they talked about, but I remember some of those other wars. It just seemed like young boys from around here all the time going away to some war. Finally, that last big war. That war when brothers fought against brothers and fathers and sons didn't see eye to eye about things. That's all settled now. Glad they put this bench here close to my stone. Gives me a chance to sit down, because these old legs don't take much to standing and walking. Sometimes when you're this age, you don't remember everything either. Don't remember real clear. But I do know there have been a lot of boys in and out of this town going off to war. And then young boys that didn't quite make it, even if they wanted to. But you're about to meet a couple more people who can tell you some more stories about wars and town and things that went on here. So I'll let you folks cozy on.
Greetings. I am Ballard of Bardstown. Well, that's what I'm called anyways. I'm not from Bardstown. I'm from Spotsylvania County, Virginia, where I lived with my father, John Ballard. I didn't move to Bardstown until 1785, and at the time it was only a tract of land called Salem Station, or just Salem for short. I came here with 4 of my dear friends, Gabriel, Isaac, Benjamin, and Morrison. I built one of the first houses here, on lot number 78. It's back and later if you want to check it out. It's where the Wilson Bank stands now. But my whole life wasn't just building abodes and exploring new areas. In 1779, I enlisted in the Army under General George Roger Clark, Illinois Regiment. We fought in the Revolutionary War, captain of the artillerymen. We only had one particularly bloody battle. It was the expedition against the Shawnee. We lost many that day, but I kept going. I didn't get badly injured. My service during the Revolutionary War allowed for many tracts of land, including one on Pottinger's, one on Stone Creek, and one on Gilkey's Run. 1775. This was the year I married my first wife, Elizabeth Hammond. We had 6 children, but in 1804, she got very ill and passed. The next year, I was lucky enough to meet another woman named Mary Ann Woodward. She helped me raise my children, and we had 5 more. We stayed on Gilkey's Run, where I had a distillery in my life until 1820, when I died. During my life, I was given many honors, such as in 1804, I became a justice, and in 1818, I became the sheriff, but died soon after. But I still have many children here, in Bardstown, and everywhere else. They've spread out very, very far. I have thousands of descendants still alive today, including one of my direct descendants buried in Holy Cross Cemetery and buried in St. Francis. In fact, I was just on my way to
We moved here to Bardstown. He just couldn't resist the opportunity of a new settlement.
I don't remember much about Papa.
I
remember a little a bit about Papa. Mama used to tell me he had an adventuring spirit and he always loved to travel to new places. Mama also told me he stayed around long enough to have me, my brother, and my sister. Their names were Alfred and Helen.
The first year that we moved here, my husband had a job to settle the house, and
Then Helen always talked about her plans. Once she got married, her and her husband always talked about her plans to go move and live on the frontier, that he calls it.
the last letter, Helen was so excited. She sent me a letter talking about all the pretty things that she saw, like the pretty store-bought dresses and the fancy meal that she ate at the old tavern.
After that, Mama told me she was very sad and felt that she was very lonely at the house just with me and her. Helen's stories was all Alfred and Papa needed to hear. They were getting ready to pack up and leave once they heard all of her adventures.
Oh yes, Kitty. After you died, there was a terrible fire in Bardstown. It started behind the old tavern on Market Street and spread all the way to Second Street. But luckily, it started raining before it caught furniture.
Now, Mama, we could talk about our adventures and other stories we have in Bardstown, but it's time to let these folks move on to the next visiting spirit.
By the way, inventor of the steamboat. Take yourself back to 1743, Connecticut. I was born as the fifth of 6 children to Sarah and Joseph Fitch. My mom died before I was 5, though, and my dad didn't cope well with being a single parent, so he had to bring a new wife in. That caused tension in the house because none of us got along with her, so as soon as they got the chance, my older siblings fled from the house, but seeing as my youngest sister and I were too young to go anywhere, we had to stay behind. And until I was 13 and got out to be a watchmaker's apprentice, I stayed behind. Eventually, I got too old for that though, so I got into the manufacturing of potash, where I met my first wife, Lucy Roberts. It was a very happy marriage though, and after 2 years, with nothing but the clothes on my back and less than $8 in my pockets, I decided to move on. With nowhere else to go, I tried to be a lieutenant in the Revolutionary War, but the neglect wasn't my taste, so I had heard from somebody that was from Virginia while I was there about the fertile land in Kentucky, and seeing as my friend Captain Jacob Yoder was transporting cows and horses to the same state, I figured I would hitch a ride there. So once I got here, I found myself in Bardstown. And even though he left after a while, I didn't really have anywhere else to go. One day I was downtown and I saw a horse-drawn carriage going by, and I thought to myself, what if there was a way to power that by steam? And after a few days I thought, why not a boat? So I set to making my drawings about this. I took them to legislatures all over the country. Eventually they gave me permission to run my test boats on several waters. And I proved myself successful every time, but still, no matter where I went, I was never given any money or financial support or any support of any kind for that matter. My life and mental health kind of went down from there, seeing as all of my attempts to achieve my dream were never able to fully go through. So I got into drinking when I returned to Kentucky. I met an innkeeper down at the Talbot Tavern, and he said in exchange for 150 acres of land, he would give me free meals every day for the rest of my life and a pint of whiskey. The whiskey wasn't killing me fast enough for my taste, so after I explained this to him, he and a friend decided to help me run some bottles down on the river. And I managed to prove myself once again, but got no help from my own countrymen. And eventually, after a life full of disappointment and depression to some point, I ended up taking my own life at 55 with opium pills. At least in death I got the credit that I deserved, though, because on May 25th, 1927, they set up the memorial down there for me. And that's where I'm buried now.
It's exciting to see an interest in history with these students. They are middle school and early high school. They have done research. They have created their own stories. There is fiction in these stories, you have to understand. Because when you do research, you can't always answer all the questions or fill all the holes. But we were excited about the idea that they would be willing to come before the public. Public speaking is one of the hardest things people can do. Even if you're being dramatic, you're still exposing yourself to the visitors who you don't know. But we want to do this for entertainment for the people, but also to promote interest in history. And it can be entertaining and learn at the same time. That's certainly a positive thing. Every Friday night in October, and possibly the last 2 Saturdays, depending on how much demand. And tonight we were going to go inside because we thought it was going to rain. It's not raining, so we're out here. Spirits don't really care if it's raining or not, but the visitors do. So we do have to consider that. If you have opportunity, come between 6:30 and 8:30 on Friday evening at the Pioneer Cemetery on South 4th Street here at the schoolhouse. There's another place you can learn how difficult it was to obtain an education 200 years ago. Come see us.